Welcome everybody to the new episode of the Short Film Show. Today I'm interviewing Johnny Daukes, the writer and director of Wonder. Welcome everybody and welcome to the Raindance Film Fest YouTube channel. We are with Johnny Daukes. Is it right?
That's right.
He's the director of the film of the shorts Wonder.
That's right.
It's
all going well.
Thank you. Could you tell us something about your short?
Wonder is takes place in one night and the following morning. 4 couples who are all in various states of relationship breakdown. And over the course of the evening, most of them find a way back to each other, with one exception. And that exceptional couple has sort of quite potentially grave consequences for the other couples the following morning.
How did the idea come up with you?
It was originally a bunch of songs that I'd written at the back end of last year and recorded at Christmas, and I actually put the album out around the same time as Raindance. And it's a series of 6 songs about a relationship that's come to an end. And I started trying to illustrate some of the songs, and some of the scenes in the film became from elements of the songs. So it started basically as a group of songs that were telling a story, and then sort of extrapolated it from there.
And the songs, of course, are in the short as well.
Yeah, there's instrumental mixes that make up the score of the film, yeah. And
you do that, you play that, you do everything. You're a musician in a way, you're a director, you're a writer.
Well, I mean, I don't think of, I wouldn't say you're a musician, you're a filmmaker. I mean, they're both telling stories, really. You know, I think whether it's, you start with a story. It's funny when there's a script I'm working on at the moment, and, somebody said to me, "Oh, what is it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know at the moment. It's a story." You can take a story and then you can change it tonally, and it can become a screenplay, it could become an album, it could become a TV drama, which should have a slightly different feel than the film. But it's compelling narrative is the heart of all of it, I think. If you engage, it's all about engaging either the listener or the viewer. And if you can create that engagement, then you can change the tone and the presentation of it, I think.
Do you work always in this way? I mean, do you always mix music and script?
I think when I've been writing scripts, music always seems to find its way in there. I'm starting to find, I haven't really written a great deal, but I'm sort of working on, I suppose, the 4th screenplay as such that I've written at the moment. And there are themes and even plot lines that are reoccurring. I think one naturally gravitates to certain storytelling elements, probably. I don't know, but I can't. I tend to think if I'm writing something that is essentially filmic or becoming filmic, I always, when I'm visualising it, I always have a tonal. I hesitate to use the word tonal palette because it sounds so pretentious, but I think in terms of instrumental voicings as well. Yeah, and when I'm writing songs, I visualise the protagonist in the song.
So what about the actors? How did you work with them? Did you do any kind of rehearsals?
No. We were working really quickly. We were on a tiny budget. I mean, the whole budget for the film was under £10,000, and shooting, for 10 days. We're using an Alexa. That paid for petrol and food, basically, and sort of transport. All of the crew and all of the cast were working for nothing, which I know is not unusual on productions of this size. But there's a lot of people do a hell of a lot for very little now. But I think we were lucky to we had a great casting director, Laura Scott, who got the script to the right people. Principally Henry Goodman and Diana Hardcastle. A lot of the actors in it are actually friends or friends of friends. Neil D'Souza, Jamie DeCourcy were sort of old acquaintances, friends. Jay Simpson I've worked with before. He was in Act of Godfrey, the film I did last year. Indra Ove was actually our DOP's wife, weirdly, but and a brilliant actress. Susanna Wise is a friend. So it was a collection of friends who were good actors. I mean, some of them I wrote the part for them as well. Jamie's called Jamie, Neil's called Neil. They were in my head right from the start. So I think the other thing that really played into our hands on the budget was I wrote the script with the locations in my head. So the older couple who live in the very quite lovely house, that's my brother's house in Barons Court. The couple who've lost the child, that's my house. A friend's flat round the corner. Another friend there that the artists live in, this mate of mine and this friend of mine, they're sort of architect, and that was their place. So and it was interesting when the production designer came in and we went and recce'd the locations, and he said, "Oh my God, this, it's perfect, it's perfect." Well, I think that's what happens when you write a script and you've already got the location in your head. And I think actually, I mean, it's stating the obvious, but I think it's a great way to work if you're doing a low budget short, is to find your locations almost before you start writing.
That's good advice.
Because the locations drive the characters as well. What sort of person lives in this house? And so often, I think what you find is when you've written something just out of the blue, which of course on a feature or something with a proper budget you can do, because then you have a location department that will find and match that brief. But when you're working on a very low budget, to find a location that works and then to write it to fit that location, it works. It's naturalistic. There's nothing jarring. And also it means that when you haven't got a budget, your production design department or your art department haven't really got any money, and they love it because they walk in and they go, well, to be honest, all we have to do is take a few things away. We don't have to bring stuff in, and we don't have to completely redress this location. So
even if it's a very low budget movie, you were able to afford a casting director, a location designer, and maybe you work on post-production as well. So could you do it because they were friends of you, or in which?
Yeah, the casting director Laura Scott worked with me on Acts of Godfrey, and I think with any director, I hesitate to say up and coming, but when you're trying to get there, you rely on making relationships with people with your key heads of department, I think, and it serves everyone well to keep those relationships going. And Laura I get on really, really well with, and I know that Laura would always go, next thing, what do you need? Laura's already doing some exploratory casting on the script that I'm writing at the moment. And Jonathan, who's our production designer, Jonathan Fensom, he's mostly works in theatre, very, very well-respected theatre designer, but I spoke to a friend of mine, he said, "Oh, Jonathan's thinking about, we'd like to do some film again." So I sent him the script and he just said, "Yeah, I love it, I'll do it." And, post-production, there was no post-production. I cut the film in my office, it's like post-production, it's a Mac.
So you did it?
Well, I was an editor for years when I was a kid,
right.
So yeah, I cut the film, yeah. And, sound designed it, and, because all of those tools are at your disposal if you've got Final Cut Pro and Pro Tools, both of which I know I use every day, all day. So, you can mix your film, you can cut your film. The one exception to that, I'd say, is grading. I think trying to grade your own film, for me anyway, is a step too far. I think it's a very specialised thing to do, and I think it's also grading. It's a thing that you can get things very wrong as well. And so, but I was lucky. The Farm, the post-production house in London, did me a huge favour. Graded the film beautifully.
Because you work with them yet, or why?
No, because I don't know. Because I think if you approach people in the right way, and you're honest with people, and don't try and fudge it, by which I mean, I think a lot of people approach service people or people they want favours from, and the first thing they do is they go, "Well, I haven't got any money this time, but next time." And I think people can see through that. I'd never do that. I'd just say, "Look, I'm working without a budget. I can't promise you anything, but you know, I'll work around you. You let me know when is convenient, and you know, and show them the script and show them the rough cut. And I think a lot of the times people like, you know, West End post-production houses, they're so used to working on, you know, predominantly commercials or big TV shows where there's a huge budget and quite often not much idea. And my experience is that they actually like helping you if you're honest. And if you don't try and pretend that you've got this, you know, bag of gold behind your back at some later date, which, you know, none of us realistically have. If we did, where it would be here now, you know. So yeah, just also on Act of Godfrey and on Wonder, I was very lucky. My producer, a lady called Julie Clark, is a very, very experienced line producer and producer in sort of high-end TV drama, and she brings a production approach that she's not working on a low budget or no budget film. She approaches it, but you know what she brings is a huge amount of goodwill, because she's had people who've worked, you know, with her, you know, on proper money. I mean, it's lucky that, you know, she believes in my ability as a writer director, and our intention is to go on and make bigger and properly budgeted films. But for now, she's prepared to make the investment and the time, and bringing in quite a few favours, you know. But on the actual production, it's run on the set. You wouldn't know you were on a low or no budget film. Everything is scheduled properly. Call sheets are done properly. You know, we had first, second, third AD. Everyone works with the right approach, you know.
So huge crew.
Well, it wasn't huge, but
For a short movie with a low budget, maybe.
But I think it's, you know what it's like being on a film set. There's a reason you have. I think on a short like this, there's an optimum number of people. You can have too few and you can have too many. Having too few people means that when you're ready to turn over, you're not ready to turn over. Having too many means that there are too many people standing around demotivated, and it slows everything down. So, you know, the first thing, not having enough people, you're not ready to go when go happens. Too many people, you're all ready to go in advance, and you get this just largesse, and everyone's just like, oh, you know, it's a fine line between looking after people, having the right number of people, being, you know, it's funny that, I mean, there are myriad articles about this everywhere. Elliot's probably written 10 this week, you know, about how to make a short film with two mates and a D7. It's an approach, but it's also, I would say, if you're not ready and prepped, then really forget it. Because if you're not getting great performance, if you haven't got a well-honed script, you're not getting great performances, and you're not capturing them in an appropriate way, not necessarily a beautiful way, but an appropriate way, you can't put caveats up before your film going, oh, well, we only had, and because these days you're judged, you know, if you've got one of these, or if you've got a 7D, it's possible to shoot images that will stand up on a movie screen. Now, nobody's going to watch it and know what your excuses are for the fact that it isn't right. It's the same as sound, you know. There are more and more and more low-budget films that look fantastic. I'm not sure there are any more great ideas than there ever were. I think there's a lot of good-looking things that maybe the idea isn't there, because it's very possible to shoot things. You know, it's that, I don't know. This is a whole nother subject. You know, people talk about the democratization of digital culture and the fact that now everyone can make a record, everyone can make a film. Yeah, they can. What happens is the noise level goes right up. So you're now competing with 500 other films that come out that month instead of 200, you know. And I think there's all the more reason why script.
So how did the pre-production take?
It was very quick. I wrote the film took sort of 7-10 days, well, the initial sort of first draft in February, and we shot in April. So it was very quick, but that was aided by the fact that we knew the locations, actor availability was good, In fact, as usual, when you go to make a schedule, something always drives the schedule. And with ours, it was the availability of Henry Goodman and Diana Hardcastle, who had other commitments. Henry was about to go off and do a play in Chichester, and he had 2 days availability. So they became the days that we shot his domestic scenes and the bus scene. So, I mean, it just, you know, the... I don't know, you've seen the film, haven't you?
Yeah.
So the bus, we had a disaster.
Yeah.
It was, we had a bus hired for 4 hours, and the bus was going to pick us up at Notting Hill Gate, and we said, right, it's going to do a circuit down Westbourne Grove, through Paddington, Edgware Road, Marble Arch, Bayswater Road. So we get on the bus, and we've got the actors there, and we rig the camera. Now, and then you start hearing the words vibration sensor plate, because the camera's doing this, and you've designed a route for your bus to travel that, who knew that Westbourne Grove had been dug up 10 times in the last year, you know? And you've got an actor sat there, and the clock's ticking, and we ended up with, we'd used 2 hours, we had nothing usable at all. And then our DOP had a chat with a grip friend of his who said, you've got to have this vibration reducing plate. Our producer got on the phone, we got one biked over, fortunately, Take Two, who really kindly gave us all of our camera and lighting equipment. I say gave, it was pretty much given. They sent this plate out on a bike, and then all of a sudden we put it on, it worked, but we then had to get everything you see on the bus, we had to get the whole thing in an hour and a half, which was just like ridiculous. I mean, we were literally, it wasn't, I quite like that take, but can we go again? Because your expression, it was just like, did he read all the lines? Yes, I heard them right next, you know. And there wasn't time to make any of the shots look particularly beautiful. We made a massive continuity error in that we shot the whole of the dialogue between the artist and the the art dealer with Indra not sat in the back of the bus. So I had to zoom. In Final Cut, I had to zoom into all of those shots, so you can't see her, so there's no context for those shots. And you look at it now and you go, oh, it's all right. But actually, it would have been a lot better with that. And, you know, no budget. You know what? The big thing that's missing on that bus is people. You know, you've got this threat of what's going to happen on that bus, and there's only 6 people on the bus. But people cost money, and people to sit on a bus for 5 hours, it's difficult, you know. But especially when you had the problems that we had, and you know, but again, nobody watches your film and goes, oh, we had loads of problems. But I think one thing I think is really, really important, and this goes to the heart of when I said earlier about films looking appropriate and not looking pretty. I think there's a disease for production design, cinematography, art direction becoming almost more important than what is happening in the frame and what's appropriate to what's happening in the frame. You know, we don't all live in art-directed homes. You know, people are obsessed now with colour palette. Yeah. It's like, what's going to be our colour palette for the film? For me, it leaves me cold. I watch a lot of films these days, and I look at them, and there's this hospital ward, and it's all green, bathed in this deep green light, and there's just one red blanket over somebody. And it turns me off. Emotionally, it's a disconnect completely. And I think certain things where there's you know, like Wes Anderson's films, the production design is absolutely implicit in the humour and the tone. Absolutely, I think his films get better the more budget he's got. Because at the early films, you know, like Rushmore and Bottle Rocket and stuff, he was hinting at what he was capable of. But it was when he got budget and he could get production design, you got these beautiful, beautiful theatrical-looking sets that they got funnier. But a lot of films, I think, you know, it's the performance, it's the script. When, you know, how many films do we all come out of and we go, well, that looked great, but what a piece of crap. Really, it looked great. They all look great, but you never ever hear anyone come out of a film and go, "That was really amazing," but it didn't look very good. Almost without exception, people don't do that, because if you're bought into the script and the emotion and the performances, provided it hasn't been shot by you know, your epileptic grandmother, you don't really go. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's. I think there's the balance has got a bit out.
I agree.
You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Is there any kind of advice or suggestion that you can tell us to say to the young directors or young writers or producers as well?
I don't really feel I'm in any position to dispense advice, because I don't really feel like, you know, it's not like I'm some guru who's got anywhere. I've made a feature that had a couple of weeks in the cinema, and I've made a short that has, you know, played at one festival, albeit a great festival, but, you know, I'm learning myself. So I don't think you can look at your script too hard. I think there's probably always words that you can take out. This is ironic from a man who wrote a film in rhyming verse that had more words in it than any other film ever. I think there's always stuff you can take out. Cut before you shoot, i.e. cut stuff out before you shoot. Go through your script, and if it's not telling you something, or it's not moving the action forward or developing a character, cut it. And cut it and cut it, and then read it to somebody, and if they still understand what's happening, it's the right thing to do. Because otherwise you're shooting stuff, you're wasting time, and you're then giving your editor stuff to look through that's wasting time. And, you know, just be absolutely merciless with cutting your script. Come into every scene as late as you can, get out as early as you can. Look at every scene, experiment with yourself, take bits of scenes out, take whole scenes out, go, does that really affect the balance of what's going on? So I think it's all on the page. I wouldn't even start to give people advice about, you know, the production process, because there are myriad books out there that will tell you about that. And if you get far enough that you're in the production process, my advice would be, if you haven't looked at your script hard enough, you've already made a huge mistake. So, you know, a bad script shot beautifully is going to be a bad film.
Yeah.
A good script shot badly will not necessarily be a bad film.
Okay. That sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we hope to see you soon with next project.
Next year, 3 out of 3, right?
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the interview. If you missed the previous episode, click here and please subscribe to the channel. And if you have any kind of comments to do, write down here. And if you're short directors, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.